She bought a house for her millionaire husband, only to discover he had promised it to his mistress. The keys felt heavy in Sarah Mitchell's hand as she stood before the Victorian mansion she'd spent 3 years saving for. Every overtime shift, every skipped vacation, every generic brand grocery item had led to this moment. She'd bought this house as a surprise for her husband David's 40th birthday, the ultimate symbol of their love and her devotion. But as she pushed open the mahogany door, ready to show him their dream home, she heard a woman's voice floating down from the master bedroom. "I can't wait to move in next month, baby. This house is perfect for us." Sarah's blood turned to ice. She recognized that voice. Miranda Chen, David's assistant, the one he always said was too young and silly to be a threat, the one whose calls he took at all hours because she's hopeless without guidance. David's reply shattered what was left of Sarah's world. "I've already had the papers drawn up. As soon as I divorce Sarah, this place is yours. She has no idea I've been planning this for months." Before we dive deeper into this story of betrayal, resilience, and unexpected justice, I want to know, where are you watching from today? Drop your location in the comments below. And if you're already feeling the weight of Sarah's discovery, hit that subscribe button to see how she turns this devastating moment into her greatest triumph. Sarah's legs trembled as she pressed herself against the hallway wall, her mind struggling to process what she'd heard. 10 years of marriage, 10 years of building a life together, and he was giving away the house she'd bought with her own money to his mistress. "What about your wife?" Miranda's voice carried a note of concern that might have been touching if it weren't so grotesquely misplaced. "Won't she fight for the house?" David's laugh was cold, unfamiliar. "The house is in my name. Sarah's too trusting. She put everything in my name for tax purposes. She thinks we're partners. She has no idea I've been moving our assets around for the past year. By the time I'm done, she'll be lucky to keep her car." Sarah bit her knuckle to keep from screaming. The house was supposed to be in both their names. She'd signed papers at the title company. Had David somehow changed them? Her mind raced through the past year, his sudden interest in handling their finances, his insistence on being the one to deal with boring paperwork, the way he'd rushed her through signatures saying he'd explain later. "You're brilliant," Miranda purred. "She really has no idea." "None. Sarah's sweet, but she's not exactly sharp when it comes to business. She's a nurse. She saves lives, not money. Although," his voice turned cruel, "she's been saving plenty lately. Probably planning some pathetic surprise for my birthday. Maybe a watch or a vacation. She has no idea I've been watching her squirrel away cash for 3 years. 3 years. He'd known about her savings for 3 years and said nothing. Sarah's hands clenched into fists. She'd worked double shifts in the COVID ward, risking her life while he worked from home. She'd come home exhausted, feet aching, still smelling of hospital disinfectant. And he'd known. He'd watched her sacrifice and planned his betrayal. "When will you tell her?" Miranda asked. "After my birthday party next week. Let her throw her little celebration, make her feel special one last time. Then I'll sit her down and explain that we've grown apart. Clean, simple, no drama. She'll probably cry, but Sarah's not the type to make a scene. Too much dignity for that." Sarah almost laughed at the irony. He was right about one thing. She did have dignity, but he was dead wrong about the rest. Silently, she crept back down the stairs, her mind already working. She made it to her car before the tears came, hot and angry. But by the time she'd driven around the block, the tears had dried and something harder had taken their place. Sarah Mitchell had spent 10 years being the perfect wife. Now it was time to be something else entirely. She pulled out her phone and called her best friend, Denise, a divorce attorney who'd been warning her about David for years. "Sarah, what's wrong?" "You were right about David," Sarah said, her voice steady despite the storm inside. "I need your help, and I need you to keep this quiet until I'm ready. Whatever you need, where are you?" "Sitting outside the house I just bought for my cheating husband, the one he's already promised to his mistress." Denise's sharp intake of breath was followed by a string of curses that would have made Sarah laugh under different circumstances. "Tell me everything." Sarah did, watching the house she'd dreamed of for so long. As she talked, she noticed things she'd missed in her excitement. The curtains in the upstairs window that weren't her taste, the unfamiliar car parked down the street, the way the garden had been recently tended though the house was supposed to be vacant. He's been bringing her here, she realized aloud. They've been playing house in my dream home. Sarah, listen to me very carefully, Denise said. Do not confront him, do not let on that you know anything. Can you do that? I worked in the ER for 5 years. I can keep a poker face through anything. Good, because we're going to need time to investigate. If he's been moving assets, we need to trace them. And this house, you said you signed papers. Yes, everything should be in both our names. I'll pull the records first thing tomorrow. In the meantime, go home, act normal. Can you do that? Sarah looked at herself in the rearview mirror. Her eyes were red but determined. I can do better than that. I can be the perfect wife he expects me to be, right up until I'm not. The next week was the hardest of Sarah's life. She smiled at David over breakfast, packed his lunches with little notes like always, asked about his day with feigned interest. All while Denise uncovered the depth of his deception. The house was indeed in David's name only. He'd had a friend at the title company swap the documents after Sarah had signed. He'd opened accounts she didn't know about, funneling money from their joint savings. He'd even taken out loans against her retirement fund, forging her signature with practiced ease. He's been planning this for at least 18 months, Denise reported. But here's the interesting thing. He's sloppy, arrogant. He's left a paper trail a mile wide because he genuinely believes you're too stupid to find it. What about the house? That's where it gets interesting. The deed might be in his name, but I found the bank records. Every payment came from an account only you contributed to. We can prove you paid for it entirely. And there's more. Miranda Chen isn't just his assistant. She's his business partner in a company he started using your money. A company that's been hemorrhaging funds because, surprise, surprise, neither of them actually knows how to run a business. Sarah felt a grim satisfaction. So, what do we do? We give him exactly what he wants. A birthday surprise he'll never forget. The plan came together quickly. Sarah threw herself into party planning with an enthusiasm that delighted David. He probably thought she was overcompensating, trying to save a marriage he'd already decided to end. She let him think it, smiling sweetly as she arranged catering, sent invitations, and decorated their current home. "You're going all out," he commented, watching her hang lights in the backyard. "Must be costing a fortune." "You only turn 40 once," Sarah said, kissing his cheek and trying not to recoil at the touch. "I want it to be perfect." "You're too good to me," he said, and for a moment she saw a flicker of what might have been guilt in his eyes. But it passed quickly, replaced by the satisfied smirk of a man who thought he was getting away with everything. The night before the party, Sarah couldn't sleep. She stood at their bedroom window, watching David sleep peacefully, and marveled at how completely she'd misjudged him. Had he always been this way? Had she been too in love to see it? Or had he changed, slowly, imperceptibly, until the man she'd married was gone entirely? Her phone buzzed. A text from Denise. "Everything's ready. You sure you want to do this?" Sarah looked at her wedding ring, remembering the day David had placed it on her finger. He'd cried during their vows, promised to love and cherish her forever. Now he was giving their dream house to another woman. "I'm sure," she typed back. The day of the party dawned bright and clear. Sarah woke early, made David's favorite breakfast, and presented him with a small wrapped box. "Happy birthday, honey," she said. "This is just the first surprise." Inside was a key, not to the Victorian mansion, but to a storage unit. David looked confused. "What's this?" "You'll see tonight," Sarah promised. "Trust me, it's going to be unforgettable." She spent the day in perpetual motion, directing caterers, greeting guests, playing the perfect hostess. David's family arrived early, his mother gushing about what a wonderful wife Sarah was. His business partners came clapping him on the back and congratulating him on reaching the big 4-0. And there, among the guests, was Miranda Chen, wearing a dress too short and a smile too wide. "Sarah," she exclaimed, air-kissing her cheek. "Everything looks amazing. You're such a good wife." "Aren't I just?" Sarah agreed, her smile never wavering. David's so lucky to have me, and I'm lucky to have him. 10 years of marriage, and he still surprises me. Miranda's smile faltered slightly, but she recovered quickly. That's wonderful. As the sun set and the party reached full swing, Sarah clinked a fork against her glass. The crowd quieted, turning to watch as she moved to stand beside David. I want to thank you all for coming to celebrate my husband's birthday, she began, her voice clear and strong. 40 years, 4 decades of life, 10 of them with me by his side. David has taught me so much during our marriage, about trust, about partnership, about the importance of reading the fine print. A few people chuckled, not catching the edge in her voice. David's smile was starting to look forced. As many of you know, I've been saving for something special, a surprise that would show David just how much I love him, how much I believe in our future together. She paused, meeting his eyes. David, honey, remember that key I gave you this morning? Why don't you tell everyone what you think it's for? David cleared his throat, clearly uncomfortable being put on the spot. I'm not sure, sweetheart. Storage unit, right? Maybe golf clubs? The crowd laughed. Sarah laughed too, but her eyes remained cold. Oh, David, after 10 years you still underestimate me. No, that storage unit contains something much more valuable. Every document related to the house I bought, the Victorian on Elm Street, the one you've been visiting with Miranda. The laughter died. Miranda's face went white. David's mask finally slipped, showing the panic underneath. Sarah, I don't know what you're talking about. Of course you do, honey. You've been there just last week with Miranda, planning where the furniture will go when you move in together after our divorce. She turned to the crowd, her voice conversational. Oh, did I mention? David's planning to divorce me. He told Miranda all about it. In the house I bought with my money, the house he fraudulently put in his name only. Sarah, please. David reached for her arm, but she stepped away. I'm not done with the surprises, birthday boy. She pulled out her phone, connecting it to the outdoor speakers they'd set up for music. You see, when I discovered what you were planning, I did a little investigating. Turns out, when you're having an affair in a house you don't think your wife knows about, you don't check for security cameras. The video began to play, David and Miranda's voices filling the backyard. Their conversation from last week, every damning word crystal clear. The guests stood frozen, watching David's life unravel in real time. His mother gasped. His business partners exchanged looks. Miranda tried to slip away, but found her path blocked by Denise, who smiled like a shark. Turn it off, David hissed. Sarah, turn it off now. But wait, there's more, Sarah said brightly. See, while you were busy planning your new life, I was busy too. That company you started with my money, the one hemorrhaging cash, because neither you nor your girlfriend can actually run a business. I filed fraud charges. Turns out, using your wife's forged signature on loan documents is super illegal. Who knew? You can't prove anything, David said, but his voice was weak. Can't I? Sarah pulled out a folder thick with documents. Bank records, forged signatures, a lovely paper trail showing how you systematically stole from me while planning to leave me with nothing. My attorney, hi Denise, has copies of everything. So do the police, who should be arriving right about now. As if on cue, 2 police officers appeared at the garden gate. David's guests began backing away, murmuring excuses and heading for exits. Sarah, please, David's voice cracked. We can work this out. I made a mistake. Miranda means nothing. Hey, Miranda protested, then seemed to realize she should probably stay quiet. A mistake? Sarah laughed, but there was no humor in it. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. This is a calculated betrayal by a man I wasted 10 years loving. She looked at the officers. He's all yours. As they led David away in handcuffs, with Miranda trailing behind, turns out she'd been embezzling from her actual employer to fund their love nest. Sarah felt empty. The adrenaline that had carried her through the week was fading, leaving exhaustion in its wake. David's mother approached hesitantly. Sarah, I don't know what to say. I'm so sorry. Don't be, Sarah said gently. He's still your son. This doesn't change that. You're a better woman than he deserved, the older woman said, tears in her eyes. I hope you know that. As the last guests filtered out, Denise appeared at Sarah's elbow. You okay? I don't know, Sarah admitted. I thought I'd feel victorious. Instead, I just feel tired. That's normal. You've been running on anger and adrenaline. Now comes the hard part, figuring out who you are without him. Sarah looked around the backyard, where she'd hosted so many gatherings, always playing the perfect wife. I don't even know where to start. Well, Denise said, you do own a beautiful Victorian mansion. That seems like a pretty good place to begin. 6 months later, Sarah stood in the doorway of that same Victorian, paintbrush in hand. The house looked different now, brighter, warmer, more alive. She'd spent weeks stripping away the traces of David and Miranda's brief occupation, reclaiming each room as her own. The legal battles were ongoing but favorable. David's fraud was extensive enough that he'd be serving time, and the divorce settlement would leave Sarah with most of their assets, the legitimate ones anyway. The house was officially hers, free and clear. You missed a spot, a voice called from below. Sarah looked down to see Marcus, the contractor she'd hired to help with renovations. Somewhere between choosing paint colors and ripping out the gaudy fixtures Miranda had installed, they'd become friends. Just friends for now. Sarah wasn't ready for anything more. But his smile made her think that someday, maybe, she could be. I'm taking a break, she called back. Want some lemonade? They sat on the porch swing she'd installed last week, looking out at the garden she was slowly bringing back to life. The house felt different now. Not like the dream home she'd imagined sharing with David, but something better. Something truly hers. Any regrets? Marcus asked, following her gaze. Sarah thought about it. About the 10 years with David, the pain of betrayal, the public humiliation of that birthday party. Then she thought about the strength she'd found, the friends who'd rallied around her, the life she was building on her own terms. No, she said finally. No regrets. Even the worst experiences teach us something. What did this teach you? Sarah smiled, thinking of all the lessons learned in pain and transformed into wisdom. That I'm stronger than I knew. That real love doesn't require you to dim your light or doubt your worth. That sometimes the best gift you can give yourself is the truth even when it hurts. And that you should always read the fine print, Marcus added with a grin. Especially that, Sarah laughed. As the sun set over her Victorian mansion, truly hers now in every way that mattered, Sarah felt something she hadn't experienced in years, complete and utter peace. She'd bought this house as a symbol of love for someone who didn't deserve it. Now it stood as a monument to her own resilience, a reminder that sometimes the best endings come from the worst beginnings. Her phone buzzed with a text from Denise. Wine tonight. I have gossip about Miranda's trial. Sarah smiled, typing back. My place. Bring the good wine. We're celebrating in my dream house. And it was her dream house, she realized. Not because of David, not in spite of him, but because she'd claimed it through fire and emerged stronger. Every room held a small victory now. The kitchen where she'd learned to cook for one and love it. The study where she'd started taking online business courses. The garden where she'd planted roses that bloomed just for her. That evening, as Denise regaled her with tales of Miranda's courtroom dramatics, she actually tried to blame everything on David's seductive influence. Can you believe it? Sarah found herself laughing with genuine joy, the kind that comes from surviving something that should have broken you and discovering you're unbreakable. You know what the best part is, Denise said, raising her glass. David thought you were too simple to figure out his scheme, too trusting, too nice. I am nice, Sarah protested. You are, Denise agreed. But nice doesn't mean weak. Nice doesn't mean stupid. And nice definitely doesn't mean you have to tolerate betrayal. They clinked glasses, and Sarah thought about all the women who might be where she'd been 6 months ago, suspicious but afraid to look closer, Hurt but convinced they were imagining things, betrayed but believing they somehow deserved it. "I want to do something," she said suddenly. "With the house, with my story." Denise raised an eyebrow. "What kind of something? Support groups, maybe? Or workshops? For women going through what I went through? God knows I could have used someone who understood." Sarah gestured around the beautifully restored room. This place was supposed to be a prison. David wanted to trap me in a cage of my own making. What if instead it became a place where women find their freedom? "The Mitchell House," Denise said slowly, testing the words. "A resource center for women rebuilding after betrayal. I like it." "Not the Mitchell House," Sarah corrected. "That's his name, the Phoenix House, for rising from ashes." Within 3 months, the Phoenix House was operational. Sarah had kept her nursing job, but reduced her hours, dedicating her free time to creating a space where women could find legal resources, emotional support, and practical guidance. The Victorians' many rooms became meeting spaces, consultation areas, and quiet retreats for women needing a moment of peace in the storm of divorce or separation. The first support group meeting had 5 women. By the 6th month, they were running 3 groups a week, with a waiting list. Sarah sat in the circle, no longer the freshly wounded wife, but not yet fully healed either, finding strength in shared stories. "I keep thinking I should have seen it sooner," one woman, Claire, was saying. "The signs were all there." "The signs are always clearer in hindsight," Sarah offered gently. "We see what we're ready to see when we're ready to see it. That doesn't make us stupid. It makes us human." After the meeting, Claire lingered. "Can I ask you something? How did you do it? The party, the public revelation. Weren't you terrified?" Sarah considered the question. "Terrified? No. Heartbroken? Absolutely. But there's something liberating about having nothing left to lose. David had already taken everything. My trust, my dreams, my sense of self. All I did was take back the narrative. I wish I had your courage." "You do," Sarah assured her. "You're here, aren't you? That's the first step." As Claire left, Marcus appeared in the doorway. He'd become the Phoenix House's unofficial handyman, always finding something that needed fixing whenever Sarah was working. "Good meeting?" he asked. "They always are, in their own way." Sarah began stacking chairs. Each story is different, but the themes are the same. Trust betrayed, dreams deferred, women convinced they're not enough. "You're making a difference," Marcus said, helping with the chairs. "This place, what you've built here, it's incredible." "It's necessary," Sarah corrected. "I just wish it wasn't." They worked in comfortable silence, the kind that had developed over months of shared projects and easy conversation. Sarah had learned that Marcus was divorced too. Though his split had been mutual and amicable, he understood the need to rebuild, to rediscover who you were outside of we. "I have something to tell you," he said as they finished. "I got offered a job in Seattle, a big restoration project. 6 months, maybe more." Sarah's hands stilled on the chair she was holding. "Oh, that's great. When?" "They want me to start next month." He paused. "I haven't said yes yet." "Why not? It sounds like an amazing opportunity." Marcus met her eyes. "Because there's something here I'm not ready to leave." The air between them shifted, charged with possibility. Sarah's heart raced, but not with fear this time, with something that felt dangerously like hope. "Marcus, I know you're not ready," he said quickly. "I know you need time and space, and I respect that. But Sarah, I need you to know, what we have, this friendship, it means everything to me. And if there's even a chance that someday it could be more—" Sarah set down the chair and crossed to him, taking his hands. They were calloused from work, steady and warm. Real in a way David's manicured hands had never been. "I can't make promises," she said softly. "I'm still figuring out who I am. The Phoenix House, my work, my life. I need to know I can stand on my own before I can stand with someone else." "I understand. But," she continued, "I also can't ask you to put your life on hold for a maybe. Take the job, Marcus. Go to Seattle. Build beautiful things. And when you come back, We'll see where we are." He squeezed her hands. "You're remarkable, you know that." "I'm learning to be," Sarah said, and meant it. The night before Marcus left for Seattle, the Phoenix House hosted its first anniversary celebration. The Victorian was full of women who'd found strength within its walls, supporters who believed in the mission, and volunteers who'd become family. Sarah stood on the grand staircase looking out at the crowd and marveled at how different her life was from what she'd planned. In her hand was a champagne glass. In her heart was a satisfaction deeper than any dream she'd shared with David. "A year ago," she began, her voice carrying over the conversation, "I stood in this house and heard my husband planning to give it to another woman. I thought my life was over. I thought I'd lost everything that mattered." The room quieted, all eyes on her. I was wrong. What I'd lost was an illusion. What I found was myself. And then, because the universe has a sense of humor, I found all of you. She gestured to the gathered crowd. Every woman who's walked through these doors has taught me something about resilience. Every story shared has added to our collective strength. This house, which was meant to be a symbol of betrayal, has become a beacon of hope. She raised her glass. To the Phoenix House, to rising from ashes, to the beautiful truth that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the best thing that ever happened for you. The toast echoed through the room, followed by applause. Sarah caught Marcus's eye across the crowd. He raised his own glass to her, a private acknowledgement of all they'd shared and all that might yet be. Later, as the party wound down, Sarah found herself in the garden with Denise and a few of the original support group members. The roses she'd planted were in full bloom, their scent mixing with the sound of laughter and healing. "Do you ever think about where you'd be if you hadn't found out?" Denise asked. "If you'd never heard that conversation?" Sarah considered it. Probably planning another birthday party, saving for another surprise, living a half-life and calling it whole. She shook her head. Finding out was agony, but staying ignorant would have been worse. "Do you think you'll ever trust again?" This from Claire, who'd become a regular volunteer. "Really trust, I mean. The way we did before." "Not the way I did before," Sarah admitted. "That was blind trust, naive trust. But I'm learning a different kind. Trust with eyes open. Trust with boundaries. Trust that includes myself. I trust my instincts now. I trust my strength. And someday when I'm ready, I'll trust another person with my heart. But this time, I'll trust myself first." 6 months passed. The Phoenix House expanded, taking over the house next door, purchased with a grant and donations from women who'd been helped. Sarah's nursing career flourished too. She'd been promoted to head nurse, her experience in crisis management serving her well. Life was full, rich, purposeful. And then Marcus came back. He showed up on a Tuesday evening, standing in the doorway of the Phoenix House with rain in his hair and hope in his eyes. "Seattle was beautiful," he said without preamble. "The project was everything I could have wanted professionally, and I spent every day wishing I was here." Sarah's heart hammered, but she kept her voice steady. "Marcus, I know we said we'd see where we were when I got back, so I'm asking her, where are you, Sarah?" She looked at him, this good man who'd waited, who'd understood her need to heal on her own timeline. Then she looked around the Phoenix House, at the life she'd built from the ashes of her marriage. She thought about trust and second chances, and the courage it took to try again. "I'm here," she said simply. "I'm whole, I'm happy, and I'm ready to see what comes next." His smile was like sunrise. "Dinner. Just dinner. We can start there." "We can start there," Sarah agreed. As she locked up the Phoenix House that night, Sarah paused in the foyer where she'd first heard David's betrayal. The space held no ghosts now, no lingering pain. It was just a beautiful entrance to a place of healing, a threshold between old lives and new beginnings. Her phone buzzed, a text from a number she didn't recognize. "Hi, I got your number from Claire. My husband just told me he's leaving. I don't know what to do. Can I come to the next meeting?" Sarah typed back, Of course, Tuesday at 7, you're not alone. Because that was the truth she'd learned in the ashes of her old life. None of them were alone. Every woman who'd been betrayed, blindsided, left to rebuild from nothing, they were all phoenixes in their own right. And the Phoenix House would be there, a testament to the power of turning your worst moment into your greatest strength. As Sarah drove home, to her small apartment, not the Victorian, that belonged to all of them now, she thought about the woman she'd been a year and a half ago, the one who'd saved in secret, loved without question and trusted without verification. That woman had been broken by betrayal, but from her ashes had risen someone stronger, someone who knew that the opposite of trust wasn't suspicion, it was wisdom, someone who understood that love meant partnership, not blind faith, someone who'd learned that the best revenge isn't living well, it's living authentically, fully, unapologetically. Her phone rang. Marcus. "How's Thursday for that dinner?" he asked. "Thursday's perfect," Sarah said, surprising herself with how much she meant it. As she pulled into her driveway, Sarah saw her neighbor's daughter playing in the yard and waved. The little girl ran over. "Miss Sarah, Mommy says you help ladies who are sad. Is that true?" Sarah knelt down to the child's level. "Sometimes, yes. But more importantly, I help them remember how strong they are." "I want to be strong like you when I grow up," the girl declared. "You already are," Sarah told her. "We all are. Sometimes we just need reminding." Later that night, as Sarah prepared for bed, she found herself thinking about David, for the first time in months, not with anger or pain, but with something approaching pity. He was in prison now, his schemes unraveled, his reputation destroyed. Miranda had fled the state after her probation ended. The life they'd planned in Sarah's dream house had crumbled before it began. Meanwhile, Sarah's life had bloomed in ways she never could have imagined. The Phoenix House helped dozens of women each month. Her career was thriving. She had friends who'd walked through fire with her. And maybe, just maybe, she had a chance at love with someone who understood that strength and softness could coexist. She pulled out her journal, a habit she'd started during the divorce, and wrote, "Thank you, David. Thank you for showing me who you really were. Thank you for underestimating me. Thank you for forcing me to discover my own strength. Your betrayal was the push I needed to stop living your life and start living mine. I bought that house to show you I loved you. Instead, it became the place where I learned to love myself. And that, it turns out, was the only love story I really needed." She closed the journal and turned off the light, ready for whatever tomorrow might bring. In the darkness, she smiled, thinking of all the women who would walk through the Phoenix House doors tomorrow, broken but not beaten, ready to rise. The girl she'd been would have called it a happy ending. The woman she'd become knew better. It wasn't an ending at all. It was a beginning. And somewhere across town, in a Victorian mansion that had witnessed betrayal and transformation in equal measure, the porch light stayed on through the night, a beacon for any woman who needed reminding that the ashes of one life could become the foundation of another. The Phoenix House stood ready as Sarah had learned to stand, strong, welcoming, and absolutely unbreakable. Thank you for joining me on this powerful journey of betrayal, resilience, and triumph. If Sarah's story resonated with you, if you've ever had to rebuild from ashes, or know someone who has, please take a moment to subscribe for more stories of strength and transformation. And remember, sometimes the house you buy for someone else becomes the foundation for discovering yourself. Drop a comment below sharing where you're watching from, and let's celebrate the phoenixes among us who rise every single day.